People that are always in relationships. How do you skip from one relationship to the next? Where do you meet these people? In my experience, people who are serial monogamists emotionally mentally check out of their current relationship and start looking for their next partner long before the end. Had this happen with 2 exes. Both pulled away over the course of about 3-6 months, and immediately after our breakups were dating people they knew from work, hobbies, extended social circles. I don't know if this is a widespread phenomenon, but that has been my experience. I had an ex like that. Little did I realize that she was cheating on her previous partner when we got together. She then cheated on me and her next 2 partners with our successors, and then we lost contact. I do not miss her. It's not a healthy trait to keep bouncing off from one relationship to another. It goes to show that people are afraid of being alone or always codependent on a partner for happiness. Many do this cause it's a short-term solution to move on quickly and not deal with breakups in a healthy manner. But since you asked, I know some people who keep backups through online dating or from work or friend circle. Many also keep looking for someone better while in a relationship, and when they do find that someone, they break up to go to the newer option. Frick, just typing this feels so sad. Yeah, I have a buddy that will always be talking to at least 3 other women on the side while he's in a relationship. Soon as his relationship falls apart, he jumps into another one without missing a beat. Attractive works, but the other route is what I see many people do, which was coined by the great philosopher and poet George Costanza, vine swinging. They set up the next relationship before the one they're in ends. Happens very often. Sometimes it's the cause of the breakup, sometimes simply a circumstantial thing. Having hobbies. You can meet so many people that way. I recommend going in with the intent to just make some friends. If you're desperate, it's going to show, and desperation is not attractive. Having friends gives you a support network and a potential dating network. Man, I go out all the time and never make new friends. I'm freaking up somewhere, lol. I have a friend who does this. She normally meets people online and then goes to meet them in person. As long as I have known her, since she started dating in middle school, she has always had a boyfriend in some form. I honestly think it was because of her mother, who treated her sister better than her and didn't act like she wanted her around. It was a need for affection from someone that evolved into depending on someone to be there for her. I think we have the same friend. I have a friend who I've known since we were about 8. She has not been single for more than a week since we were 16. She maintains this by not breaking up with the previous guy until she has a new one lined up to take his place. Not particularly ethical, but it stops her being single, which she hates. I liked a girl quite a bit back in university, but she had a boyfriend. We hanged out a lot, tried to be in the same class, lunch with friends, dinner with friends, and even a few days in the park by ourselves. I think she liked me as well. Thing is, I would never make a move while she was with someone else, so I didn't. Eventually, I met someone else I started caring about. I had a friend like this. She just didn't like the idea of being alone and said yes to any guy that asked her out. The dude usually ended up being the same, not wanting to be alone. They're consumed by the idea of being alone, so they put extra effort into not letting that happen. Kinda like going from being fired from a job to another job so you don't become broke. They are consumed by the idea of being alone. Next time just tag me. The ones I know who do this plant the seeds for a new relationship before they end the old one. They decide they want to break up, so they go hunting, and don't break up until they're sure they've found someone who'll date them. Or they meet someone they want to date and ditch their current partner. They're just very good at picking up new partners, which makes sense since they've had a lot of practice. And at least one of the people I've met who bounces from relationship to relationship is not very picky. I literally started dating the guy who sat next to me at work after I broke up with my ex. Strangely enough, my ex also sat next to me at work at a different job, so I guess I just choose whoever is physically closest to me. That's concerning. Lots of hobbies. I rollerblade pretty religiously. Have a few different skate events I go to. I do a few 5k, 10k events every year. I windsurf when it's not ungodly cold in the UK. I am learning Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I attend a ton of meetups like pottery, Sunday painting, trekking, whatever. Grab a few friends, go have a good time and meet new people and make more friends. Majority of the people in my life are through these hobbies. And it's just as well because my mum and I moved to a completely different country, continent, culture about 13 years ago. Now, as to the question of why I can't hold a relationship down, I think I have major commitment issues. Anytime the guy gets slightly attached to me, I freak out and break up. I don't know if I'm good enough for a relationship, or will ever be, but I can't do one night stands. I definitely need affection and relationship, just not the commitments and problems that come with it. I also find that I don't have any problem being single. I like being alone sometimes, and I tend to take time offs between breakups and go travel to a nice warm place that lets me surf. Maybe my abusive dad and unhappy marriage that my mum was in has something to do with it. Maybe it's just me being a weirdo. I don't know. As I'm writing this, I'm also realizing that I don't really care. Was in a relationship with someone who would bounce from one to the next. She couldn't give the correct love needed and my needs didn't matter eventually. We had a long relationship and I broke her cycle of boyfriends, but it was a struggle. I just hope I helped her honestly, but I don't talk to her anymore. The one time I left one relationship and jumped into another. I was unhappy dating the one guy and had been dropping hints that I was going to break up. And he was actively trying to convince me not to, so I caved in and waited for a good excuse or moment. Then I met a dude at a new job and felt an instant connection. That was the push I needed, so I broke up with dude A and got together with dude B. Now that I'm not 19 years old, I know myself well enough and have enough confidence in my perception that I wouldn't let myself be talked into staying in a relationship that didn't suit me. I'm also lucky enough to be able to support myself alone on one income, so I'm not forced to find someone else to share bills with before I can afford to leave a crappy relationship. I'm sure that plays a role for many people. I had a very similar situation where a guy could smell the end and just threw out any excuse to keep me. I didn't meet someone else to push me over though. I just cover after an extra 6 months. Don't let your social circle shrink into nothing while you're dating. Always have options, and having friends gives you many options, assuming that they will set you up with other people. General tips: set boundaries, have a plan for your life, value yourself first. Don't be afraid to end it. Don't be afraid to end it. The relationship, I assume, not your life. Do be afraid to end your life. I was a serial monogamist for a while. Important to note that this is serial, not parallel. No cheating, no overlap. Just not a lot of time between ending one relationship and starting another. It was always somebody I already knew. Usually somebody I hadn't really thought about like that or figured they wouldn't be interested in me anyway. The relationship ending was almost always not what I wanted. That is to say, I got dumped. I wasn't shopping around for somebody new and sabotaging myself. I didn't go looking for somebody else to date. They found me. Given the choice, I'd have preferred more time. But when this kind of thing happens, you don't get to just be like, thanks for your interest. Can you come back in a couple months? The spark is here now. Your choices are to see where it goes or not. I don't regret making that choice. I would have always wondered. Let's break some of the negativity on this thread. Humans aren't solitary creatures. We form families or tribes. Things are easier when we're together. There's shared work and shared resources. Nothing wrong with being alone, but being part of a group, even two, makes life easier and potentially more rewarding. Just flipping the script on most of these comments indicating that there's somehow something wrong with these people. The negativity seems to be coming from people who have had a dishonest partner. If you're flirting around with someone else while in a monogamous relationship, you are being dishonest and very disrespectful to your partner. End of story. I knew a girl like this in school. In those 4 years she had 5 boyfriends and I had none. Since school she has been engaged twice and has changed careers several times. I on the other hand have had 1 boyfriend and 1 career path. Some people crave change or have a lower bar for entry. One is not better than the other. People live their lives differently. I was jealous of her at the time, but knowing myself, her life would have been too chaotic for me. It's not even attractive people. As long as you're not overweight, you look put together, and have a decent job, you have way better chances of pulling this crap off. I have friends that are like this, and they aren't exactly Megan Fox, but they dedicate a lot of time to grooming and exercising to give off a certain aesthetic. I call it the girl next door look. The real Angelina Jolies aren't being approached willy-nilly by just any man. People think they need to find the happiness that doesn't exist in their lives in somebody else. They aren't content with who they are, so they validate themselves by the presence of another. I used to meet people at the places I was obligated to be: school, work, friend groups, friends of EXS, etc. before I decided that was too much drama. As for bouncing between people, I made it very clear to my partners that my relationships were casual and I didn't get super attached. Of course, I've at this point accidentally gotten attached a few times, but those just serve to remind me of exactly why I need to never get attached again. This question is perilously close to demonstrating some bad assumptions I feel. For my own example, I spent the majority of my 20s in 3 relationships because having someone I love to spend my time with has been an overarching goal of mine. I can and have functioned outside of relationships, but honestly I just enjoy it a lot more. To that end, when I've been single, I've done a couple different things I'd consider successful. I've usually, while trying to be respectful of boundaries, asked people I found attractive to coffee nearby, and from there to lunch or dinner. The thought here is that it gives the woman in question witnesses and plenty of space at first. Gives me a chance to show that I'm not dangerous while they're minimally vulnerable and invested. After 3 or 4 dates, usually you can tell if the relationship is a thing that is going to move forward or not. Either way, you learn something. Another strategy is starting or joining a social group. I did Taco Tuesday with a group of coworkers. I honestly didn't get any long-term relationships out of that, but it gave me a significant pool of friends, some of whom were down to kill an occasional night with me. Either way, it takes a not insignificant time, money, effort investment. Literally everyone is answering why people search for new relationships right away. OP is asking how they are able to find someone, when many of us struggle to find anything for months or years on end. I'm a very outgoing person, even being an introvert, so I tend to talk to everyone I can until I can't anymore, and people find me mysterious because I just disappear. Unfortunately, I'm also very boring, so they leave almost as quickly as they become attracted. Honestly, I am one of these people, and after a recent proper heartbreak, I've realized it's not healthy, and for the first time in my life I am going to focus on myself and being happy alone. The heartbreak has taught me so much in just 3 weeks, and I am not going to be ready for a relationship for a very long time after being led on and treated badly by someone I fell really hard for way too soon. I've always had options because I'm a very kind and understanding person with a huge loving heart and listening ear. I am very down to earth, and I am an attractive woman who is super nerdy, so I've always got gamer guy friends who adore me. Being an attractive, nerdy, outgoing woman with a healthy love for booze and working in a male-dominated field pretty much meant I was surrounded by dudes who were interested in me ever since I got to college. Met them in class, at work, online gaming, at bars. Almost every single one was my friend first. I feel like I'll marry my current boyfriend, and I have to say I've had practice at seeing if something will work out. In the last 13 years I've had 6 serious relationships and a whole lot of less serious ones. During the last few I made sure to force myself to be single for a while so that I'd not fall into any codependencies the next time around, which happily has worked. Well, except for the booze. But I'm doing better on that front too. I'm significantly more emotionally balanced than I was even just 3 years ago. I think it's possible my, then untreated, anxiety was spurring me along a lot more than TLDR. Born lucky. At least for me, woman. It's never been an intentional or malicious thing that happens. As context, I personally spent my late teens and early 20s in relationships that went on long past their expiration date. Some of the relationships were physically emotionally abusive, so it wasn't a matter of trying to work things out, but I would stay fully, sometimes stupidly, invested until the very end. That being said, as soon as a relationship is over, it's over. I don't go backwards or do second chances. I firmly believe that if it didn't work out the first time, it's not going to work out in the future. I suppose it's also easy for me to let things go because I know that I always give 100% to making a relationship last. So when it doesn't, I generally don't have any regrets or hang-ups. Where I meet people, TBH. I'm a very social introvert. I have always been super involved in activities. I go out, and I generally find it easy to make friends. Not to sound like an arrogant prick, but after every breakup, I've usually had 2-3 people ask me out within a month. I try not to let people on, so I only go on dates with individuals that I can potentially see myself dating long term, and it typically goes from there. I think a lot of people are missing one point that is very important to the equation. A lot of people find future partners that are currently in relationship and are waiting for them to become single to make a move. Have you ever wondered why whenever you're in a relationship you seem to be attracting more women? It's because the fact that you are in a relationship shows that you have a specific set of characteristics, or at least some kinds of minimum set of qualities that makes you dateable. It's similar to buying a product because it's popular. Because it's popular, it shows that there's some quality to it, and you being in a relationship shows that you have that quality. So you might not fit with your current partner needs, but you might fulfill the needs of somebody else. So in the end, it isn't necessarily the person that's in a relationship that is looking on the outside to date, but the outside world seeing your boyfriend girlfriend as a valued because you made them so. At the end of most relationships, one person is already well past over it before the breakup happens. In that case, all of the hovering relationship suitors finally see an opening. In some cases that's while the relationship is still going. In some cases it is and the relationship changed status. In others it is when the newly single person finally feels free to hang out with people previously blocked. When I was single, I had a mental list of who I would love to go on a date with as soon as they became single. We were friended, worked together, or already had common interests. Due to that, once an opening presented, it was time to declare intent. I haven't been single for more than 6 months consecutively since I was 16, and I'm 31 now. I've been in a lot of long-term relationships where the last year is a slow, steady decline. After each one, there's been a gap of like 2 or 3 months before a friend admits to being attracted to me and asks me out, and generally it goes from there. None of the people I've ended up dating hit on me when I was in a relationship. I don't really tolerate people disrespecting my current partner, but historically, I get asked out by someone pretty quickly when one relationship ends. I have a wide circle of friends. I get emotionally attached easily, and don't like to give up on romantic partners even when things are rocky, though I am getting better at that. I've never cheated on a partner since one time when I was 16. Felt horrible. 0 stars. Do not recommend and will not do again, but I also never stayed single for long. I think it's more of a combination of being emotionally easy, willing to commit quickly, unwilling to break up without like 70 million how can we fix this convos, and being a fairly driven, outgoing, and semi-attractive female. Before COVID, the longest stretch I had between relationships was around 2 months. Typically, I'd end up in a new relationship with a friend of a friend. Acquaintances and the like that had found me desirable but couldn't act on it because I wasn't single. Once I was single, they'd start flirting, and if we clicked, a few times I ended up with someone I worked with, for the same reasons as above. When that didn't happen, I'd end up getting on the first date merry-go-round via dating sites until I met someone I clicked with, which usually didn't take more than a few tries. I'm apparently a mystery. Women found me interesting because my mind worked differently from what they were used to. I treated them with respect without being a pushover, and they couldn't figure me out easily, which led to them falling for me. By the same token, once they figured out the mystery, which usually took 1 to 2 years, they'd soon find me to be boring and predictable, and that would signal the start of them falling out of love with me, and I'd be back to square one. Sometimes, One relationship dies and you stay together just because that's what you are used to. So, when someone who is showing mutual interest in you comes along, you jump ship. It's not healthy, but it is what it is. I've jumped from LTR to LTR, 3+it, within a month for my last 3, or the last 2 transitions really. Both transitions were to someone I'd known for a long time and had always thought was attractive, but was in no way planned or lined up while I was still with my previous girlfriend. After my breakups I generally just try to go out with my friends and force myself to be social. Even when I do the breaking up I'm usually pretty fricked up about it, and I've ended up running into attractive people who get me and are there for me. Before long that turns into more. There are a lot of people in this thread that are saying people like me are afraid to be alone, perpetually codependent, hunting for the next relationship while they're still in the old one, etc. Jesus. Judge much? There may be a touch of these things, but there's a touch of these things in everybody. It's not necessarily the driving factor. Certainly isn't for me. I just have great friends, who themselves have great friends, which means I'm surrounded by great people. A lot of the young girls I used to work with did this and all I could really think was, where on earth are you meeting these people, and also you are 18. This dude is 32, has an apartment with only a bed in it. You are the mistress. Turns out I was correct. I just don't understand how easy it is for people to just hop into new relationships. You just met this person a week ago. You hardly know them and you're already dating? I'm not judging these people in a bad light, but I just do not understand how they can be attracted to someone new in like 2 weeks. I kinda wish I was like that, tbh. I'm so late to this party, but this question actually applies to me. I'm never looking for a new partner before I leave the current one. In the past, I would become somewhat unhappy in a relationship after a lot of time invested with that partner. Shortest relationship was around 10ish months. After all that time, I felt I could never justify a breakup because if there was some sort of deal breaker or red flag, I'd know about it early and initially think that they could change. LOL dummy. I'd end up just staying in the relationship because I would have some happy moments with my partner, or I think about breaking up with them and it would make me incredibly sad. But then I would meet someone new, make a new friend or whatever, get to know them, hang out platonically, and realize that I'm happier spending time with this friend than I am with my partner. Ultimately the realization that I can be happier with someone else, someone that actually exists and isn't just some fantasy, is what drives me to end things. Otherwise, I just think that this is as good as it gets and stick to it. Actually it's really easy, get a little conversation going, listen more than talk, and when you do talk be calm and smile a little, make them laugh a little, but don't be there too long, just a few minutes, and don't tell them much about you when you leave. Offer them you Snapchat or whatever you use, talk for about a week, then just say we should hang out sometime. Then if they say some form of yes, just change the subject a little, then a while later tell them you are doing something about a week from then and ask if they wanna come. Make sure they know you are already going even if they don't, and by now you should kind of know their schedule. Don't make yourself look desperate and post on your story when you are doing something fun, but only once so they know, but not more than twice. Or just go to a bar with a friend not as good looking as you and look like you are having fun. Someone will come up to you. My sister has me convinced of 2 things. I'm convinced that she's afraid of dying alone and that she picks up all the men she dates at the psychiatric wing of the local hospital. The reason why people skip one relationship into another one is basically because they are afraid to be alone. It's because being alone scares them and they haven't resolved issues within themselves which they haven't addressed yet. It's because they rely on codependency. Mostly it's just a lot of healing hasn't been done, so they jump one relationship to another. If you are jumping onto one relationship onto another, you have a lot of unresolved trauma carrying inside you. Get that help. Get that therapy. Learn to be alone first and it will eventually help you to be in healthy relationships and never settling for the bare minimum. I tend to find the best in people, which makes liking new people easy. The easiest way to meet new people is to smile and start up a conversation if it feels natural. I've never checked out of a relationship I was in, but I also have a low balls tolerance and make it clear that if I am not being treated well then I am okay walking away. And maybe I am so okay with walking away because I know it's easy to find good in new people. Honestly, I totally get the negative view of serial daters. But I also always hated that someone who hasn't spent a lot of time single is considered a serial dater because it leaves no room for nuance and the recognition of circumstance. I'm 30 and I've been with my so for what will be 10 years at the end of this year, so I probably don't qualify as a serial dater due to the length of time we've been together. But prior to him, I was with someone 2.5 years, someone 2 years, and someone else 2 years. Before that, I was basically a child and none of it counts, but I did have 2 serious boyfriends during my time in high school as well. I did not jump from guy to guy to guy, but those 2 relationships took up the majority of the time I was in high school. So technically, I haven't spent more than a few months at a time single since childhood. When relationships ended, I didn't go out seeking someone new. I just get along really easily with all kinds of people. I'm very adaptable, so I'd meet someone and hit it off without even trying. Each of the relationships I've had were healthy for me at the time and certainly not toxic, and they only ended because we were no longer good matches, but it was amicable. I'd like to think that if my so and I broke up, don't see that happening, I would spend more time single since I never really did. But who the heck knows? What if I met someone shortly after that I really hit it off with again? I don't really know. Hopefully never have to find out. I've been this person but not on purpose. I've never been afraid or unwilling to be alone. After a breakup, I'm a mess for a week and then I'm fine. I never saw any reason to turn down an opportunity if I wasn't hurting. I firmly believe my current partner is the one. Do I sometimes wonder if I could have benefited from some extra single time? Yeah, every once in a while, but it's nothing I'll lose sleep over. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.